Hello and welcome back to Crossroads of Cognizance, where we talk about all things witchy woo-woo from the East Coast to the West Coast and everything in between, the trends that are happening, the ways we navigate healing, support others, and try to navigate this life, right? So if this is your first time on broadcast, I am part of this wonderful team. I'm Dahlia Rose over here on the East Coast, holding down the fort in my shop in Woodbridge, Virginia. We service the community through healing. We do classes, meditations. Actually, we have meditation after this, both virtually and live, and in person. And we also sell healing tools, so crystals, herbs. We have cards now and all kinds of wonderful things. So, but I only make up a part of this amazing picture. On the other side of me with amazing boobs is.
I was going to bring those up because they're off center today, and I feel like I need to do some serious arranging. You know how you don't see it until you're looking in the camera and you're like, they're not even.
I don't have this problem.
You know, anyway, I breastfed 5 babies for a long time. Anyway, hi, my name is Katrina Raswold. I'm the other half of Crossroads of Cognizance. I'm honored to hold down the West Coast while Dahlia has the East Coast. I do, and the days are counting down, currently have a metaphysical store that is a brick and mortar store in Shingle Springs, California, nestled into the forested Eden of the El Dorado National Forest. And we are closing our store up to October 2nd and taking everything online. We've always had an online presence. It's just that the online presence is now going to become our full-time job. And we'll be working the festivals that are around. For now, we are still offering in-person readings, cleansings, astrology charts, Reiki, chakra clearing classes, and a retail presence with all kinds of things like crystals and candles and the hoodoo products that we make and books and tarot cards and jewelry and all sorts of things. So that's what we've done. We've done that for many years, and I'm very happy to be going into semi-retirement and being able to work from my home like so many others in our wonderful country. And yeah, I'm glad for that. I turned 61 in a little over a week, and I am very grateful to be out of the workforce, which speaks to our topic of the day.
It really does. Guys, we talked about this maybe I think like 2 shows ago that we were going to occasionally bring cards into the mix. Both of us absolutely adore tarot, oracle, and other divination modalities. And over it was like a year ago, I bought this deck off of Kickstarter. It was absolutely amazing, but Kickstarter will get you things when they get you things. So almost a year later, got this deck, sent Katrina a copy. It's the Alleyman's Tarot. You might have heard of it, or you might not have, but I wish I had there's a little booklet. Wish I had the box.
I do. I'm getting it.
Cool. So this deck is comprised of, oh, there it is. There's the Alleyman's Tarot. It's comprised of, I think, something like 100 and I think it starts out as 140 in the deck, and then you can get booster
And then the
packs
expansions,
to
yeah.
add. So this deck is incredible. I mean, it's got so much personality. I myself have given myself like a couple readings, and it's very sassy. Anyway, I decided to bring it out for you folks today and just ask the question, like, what do the people need to hear? And the answers were interesting. Well, they, as the tarot can be, were not bright and sunny and oh, your magical dreams will come true. It was very like,
Mm.
hey, in your face.
Yeah. Now, Alleyman Tarot particularly is very dark.
It
Now,
is.
Dahlia mentioned it, and she said, "Oh my God, I got this deck on Kickstarter, and it's just fabulous. You got to look at it." And I looked at it, and I kind of went, "Yeah, that's okay." And then my daughter got this on Kickstarter, and she said, "Mom, you have to get this deck. It's amazing. There's like what is it, 13 or 14 death cards in it,
Yeah.
like some huge number of death cards because it's compiled of all these different decks." And my daughter's like, oh my God, you got to use this. Look at it, touch it, feel it. You're going to love it. I looked at it. I went, eh. And then Dahlia sent me the deck and I picked it up and I'm like, oh, my precious. And I didn't connect with it until it was my deck. I think this is a deck that is very personal to the owner as to how it speaks. And now I use it all the time. But I want to point out that with 100 and how many cards? I'm not.
It's like 140 to start.
And then something literally like 10 or 13 or something of them are death cards. So it embraces a lot of change.
Yes, it does.
And yeah, it really will call you out. And we got such a message that immediately was clear to both of us today. So we're excited to talk to you about that. We hope you'll join us in the comments. We hope you'll give us a like, hit subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, please remember to don't just if we forward it to you or you catch it from somebody else, don't reply on that. You need to go to the live stream, click on the live stream so we can see you, because we will answer your comments that are a question or demand comment. We will be there in the conversation even when this is archived, because we're just that curious.
And we may even be able to bring you your comment up on screen too, so you can be a part of the family. So
right.
With all of that in mind, it's sort of hard to say, like when you say what do the people need to hear, it's sort of hard to really capture it. So we'll kind of wrap it up in the end. The deck does follow a lot of the tarot's tradition. And so I want to show you this card upright first. I'm always bad with these camera movements. So this is the Eight of Cups. Isn't that beautiful? There's clouds, there's rising above the clouds, right? So this is the Eight of Cups. Now, I don't know what Katrina's traditions are as far as tarot and reversals, but to me, the reversal is either an amplification of what's going on or the negative version, depending on the cards surrounding it. When the Eight of Cups is in reverse, we're dealing with... Oh, are you pulling cards?
Well, what I was going to do is show the classic Eight of Cups, because we might bring that into conversation. You can keep talking. Oh, here it is. Ah! What a weird day. Okay, so this is what you're used to seeing with Eight of Cups. Now look at the contrast with what Dahlia has there. So the theme on this part of Eight of Cups is about walking away from a sure thing, which is the full cups, to the mountain, which is faith, because we don't know what's there. You're crossing water, meaning there's a lot of emotion involved. You've got a red cloak, which means you're doing it in a passionate way. You're wrapped in passion. So this would be about somebody who feels strongly about something, that they are moving away in a leap of faith from the sure thing to the unknown. That's what I take from the Eight of Cups. But we got it reversed. When I I do not actually read reversals, little known Katrina fact. If it comes up reversed, I will read it as reversed. But typically I go through and put all my cards in order as I hand them to a person. And that helps me clear the deck from the last person. And so I'll give it to them. And if they come up reversed, I'll read them. If not, I'll read them upright. But when it's reversed, it means you are feeling really challenged and really hesitant to make a leap of faith that your spirit is telling you need to make. How do you read reverse eight?
Just about the same. There's some hesitancy, there's some resistance, maybe even some things that are being avoided. And in the Owlman's Tarot, it specifies pain. It specifies the, sort of the avoidance, the movement away from pain, and a need to kind of take a break. And it talks about moving into the clouds to do so, but needing to also, like when we're in reverse, we need to kind of come back down to earth and address what actually has to be addressed. We have to learn to live with the pain, not necessarily avoid it. Now
this really is going somewhere, everybody.
I felt like, I was like, damn, are these cards talking about me? Because I can be pain avoidant. I am clumsy. but also pain resistant. And I like wanted tattoos and things like that and additional piercings, but I resist it. And I realize that's a very generalized definition of pain. But it can go into other areas as well. And through spirituality and a lot of the practices that I've been given by mentors, talking with Katrina, and then working with different kinds of techniques, you learn to have a different relationship with pain. And I think it is an opportunity, like even dissociation is an opportunity to kind of take yourself out of the depth of the pain for just a second to gain a whole full picture of what's going on. There is an unhealthy aspect to that. But if you are so engrossed, you may not be getting the answers. You may not even be able to hear clearly. I know I always think about the worst pain that I ever experienced was in childbirth. Um, Having a C-section and passing out from the pain because the pain meds wore off. And, at that point, the sort of the segue here being that was a situation where pain was so intense that I couldn't hear anything. And I feel like the Eight of Cups is in reverse to kind of tell us to take a step back from what may have otherwise been a charge forward into the pain. I'm just going to work through it. I'm just going to muscle through this. What do you think, Katrina?
I think that given the I would say bullet statement that we came up with for the three cards that we drew, that's a very good assessment. I think it also speaks to people who are performing beyond levels of endurance right now.
Hmm.
That they are working harder and sacrificing their spirit, sacrificing their well-being, sacrificing their ability to flourish, and they're just nose to the grindstone. And granted, sometimes our society demands that, and I get that. But there are times when you just have to say no, that you're not going to do that, that your health cannot manage that. And so I would see it in that respect, that it's a pain that is optional, that we are not seeing as optional. So we have almost an incongruency as the way that we're looking at the pain that we're experiencing.
Hmm.
That we're seeing it as I have to do this. I just had this conversation in healing class last night where a guy said, he was talking about his father, and he said, I have to put up with his bullshit. And I said, you know what? And this is in front of the whole class. I said, you really don't. You're an adult man. You're choosing to do this. And once somebody sees that they're choosing to do something, even if it's painful, it gives them back the power.
Absolutely.
And so I know I'm doing this with settling my house. I need to get this house settled. And I won't feel at peace until it's settled because I'll have all this work pending in front of me.
Mm.
But my foot hurts, my back hurts, my head hurts, I'm overextended, and I need to rest. So I think that that's what it's about. I think it's about moving past what your body and your mind and your spirit can reasonably endure.
Which, as the beautiful tarot does, it brings that all back together. And guys, we only pulled three cards for all that's being said
That's
about.
just the first card.
That was just the first one. So book your readings with Katrina now. um, so the next card was interesting to me. Like Katrina said, this deck is made up of multiple decks all together. I don't even know how one comes up with an idea like this. I know that both Katrina and I will use like multiple decks to do things. I've seen it on the Crossroads broadcast, which is at the Crossroads where, you know, Katrina pulls a card and then Gladys does or Nelta does, and it only enhances where the reading began. And that's the beautiful thing about the Alleyman's
Mhm.
Tarot is that you don't have to reach for another deck because there's so many smashed together. So this was an interesting card. I'm going to show it to you guys upright because we did get it upside down. This is the House of God. Now, there is, I could not figure out an associate. Oh, is it, we said,
It's a 16. Look.
oh, Oh,
We're
it
good.
is up in
We're
the
good.
top corner. It is the tower card. So
Hmm.
she was like, "What do you think it is?" Katrina was like, "What do you think it is as far as the translation?" And I was like, "I don't know. It kind of looks like a tower card." So yes,
The House of God was confusing me. I don't
yeah,
know if they're going for a Tower of Babel effect, maybe.
maybe.
Uh,
And I when I saw House of God, I thought the Pope. I thought the Hierophant.
yeah, yeah,
So, haha, small clues up in the corner.
yeah.
But in any case, we did get it reversed. Now, when the when the tower shows up in your life, it's like it's probably the most hated card, I think. I mean, even more so than the devil and what's the other one? The death card. I think the tower card is like the most despised. Uh,
People are afraid of it because it's just utter destruction, but it's utter
yeah,
destruction for your greatest good
absolutely.
and so that you can rebuild. And we tend to get it upright when we have ignored all the signs, all the signals, all the omens along the way. We know we should end that relationship months ago. We know we should quit that job a year ago. We kept getting pushed. We kept getting shown every reason why we should move out of that house, and we didn't.
Right.
We were stubborn, we were wanting our own will, we were insisting that it was going to work out. And this is when the universe takes the choice out of your hands
Yep.
and says, nope, you had a chance to do this your way. Now we're going to do it our way. You're fired. Or this person broke your confidence and cheated on you and betrayed you to the point that you will not be with them.
Right.
Or now your home is being foreclosed. No, you're leaving. It's out of your hands now. But when it's reversed, it means you are, at least when I read it, it means you are really, you're resisting hard and you're going to get beaten up if you're not careful. How do you
Now
read
that
that?
that's interesting. So when I see the tower in reverse, there is all of those elements of resistance and things coming, things being pulled from your control. But the reversal brings in an element of taking on responsibilities that are not yours.
Oh, very nice. I like that.
Yeah, yeah, and I tend to see it in reverse for overgivers. It's like one of the first thing that shows up, and I'm like, okay,
Ooh.
don't be scared about the lightning and all that's happening, but you are risking a lot here by taking on things that are not yours, experiencing guilt through that process. We've talked about guilt representing an energetic attachment to karma, if you believe in that. So that's kind of how I take on the tower in reverse. Now we went from the first card, the Eight of Cups in reverse, to the tower. We went from this place of dissociation, this place of needing to pull back away from the pain to and to leave some things behind, but being resistant to it, to this card that says, maybe you've been there too long. And one of the things that I find, so Katrina and I are both Virgos, which means that in the tarot we represent the hermit. And we represent it hard. I have had a lot of client friends talk about, like, you opened back up and you were gone for so long, and I kind of look at them like, okay, what was the problem? Like, we had a schedule, you could come by, we just had to plan it. um and so the hermiting can happen really hard in a Virgo's life. My partner, of course, knows sometimes I'll need like a week to me. There's no pattern. So Katrina and I were talking about this pre-show, and my question to her was, how do you find balance in all of that hermiting? Like, how do you know? How does Katrina know when it's time to stop hermiting and to come out and be among the people once more?
So that tower card we talked about, where it's outside of your hands and the universe is forcing you, it's not until that moment that I will leave my house. You see, I always, I won't say always, but most of the time I have been blessed to be able to create a house that's a sanctuary that I love being in, that causes me to feel safe and at home and secure, and I don't have any reason to leave. Now my husband, He's a social butterfly. He likes action and activity and adventure. He's gone all the time. He goes rock climbing. He goes whitewater rafting and hiking and all this other shit. And he's gone constantly. I'm the one that's just getting mad if I have to leave my house.
Oh
And
no.
so if I ever leave my house to come see somebody, they better know what a sacrifice that was. And so when I worked for almost, I guess it was around 17 years in Air Force Civil Service, doing all kinds of jobs. I was a library aide, I was a medical transcriptionist, I did medical front office, I was a secretary for the police, I was a telephone operator, a hazmat technician. I recorded the break fix ratios on um, A-10s, and worked on a top secret project plane for NASA. I did all of these different jobs, and really every day had to force myself to leave the house to do that. And a lot of those times I was working a couple of other jobs too. I would do readings in shops. I was teaching childbirth classes. So
Mm.
I was always working. And when I married Eric, a couple months later, our base was closing. And he said, "Well, how do you feel about being a stay at home mom? Because we just had a little baby. And, I was pregnant at the time. No, we just had Dylan. We just had Dylan. And we were getting ready to have Nathan. We knew we wanted another child. And he said, "How do you feel about being a stay at home mom?" And I was like, "Yes, yes, yes." And it took a lot. I really didn't ever want, even after my kids were grown and in high school and such, I did not want to leave my house. And finally, I bought a computer store and started a festival because Eric kept saying, talk about the other card. He kept saying, "You don't know what the world is like anymore. You can't speak intelligently to what's happening out there because you've been locked up in the house for years." And like you, my response was, "What? So? Why is that so bad?"
Right.
I mean, I don't understand why people call that bad, that I don't want to be out there in the world where all the mess is. So I went out. This was in 2013, I think it was. So I've been out in the wild for a long time now, and I'm done with it. I'm done. I don't. I want to just be in my house now. So the way that I know, and this is the long way of telling that it's time for me to come out of the house is quite. It is never time for me to come out of the house. That's how I know. And the house has to literally burn down or blow up or whatever for me to leave the house. Now, how do I know when it's time to go back into my house when I've been out? It's when I am having to work to not hate everybody I see. When I'm having to get back in my head and my heart and say, these people didn't do anything to you. It's not these people's fault that you are continuing to run a store, a retail establishment that you got to be at, 5 days a week. It's not their fault you had to answer 40 emails this morning. So just get off your high horse and settle down. But when I'm starting to, I mean, who sits in a retail exchange and goes, "Oh, fuck customers"? Great. So I have to talk myself out of that response and say, "Oh, I'm so grateful for the prosperity. I hope I can help these people." This is a terrible thing to admit in public, that I get really weird. And sometimes I'll be in my office. I'm talking way too much. Sometimes I'll be in my office and there's a sign on my door that says consultations private. And people will just walk in and sit down. And I'm like, "Hello."
I
So
mean,
I
I
get to
think
hide and be the bog witch. But Eric is the face of Crossroads.
I
And he's just, "Hey, how are you? How can we help you today? Wow, I really like that shirt. Have you seen them in concert?" Just blah, blah, blah. And
it sounds like my partner. I'm like, go for it, honey. Enjoy
yeah,
yourself.
that's
You know, I
correct.
think I think that we all encounter that on some level. You know what I mean? Like it's different because I'm sure you can attest to this. Like it's different when there's a depth to the interaction, right? As opposed to the, you know, the trendiness of something, or the I don't know. I don't even know how to call it. But with the tarot card,
Mhm.
with what the Ally Man's Tarot talks about with the reverse tower is neither of what me or Katrina
Right.
read into it, which is, hey, you're starting to feel some level of what's the word that it used?
Disconnect. It's
Disconnect.
You're disconnect. It doesn't. It feels artificial. I think is
Yes,
what it said.
apathy was another term
Apathy. Yes,
thrown
that's
in there.
good.
And that it's time to shift into some level of authenticity and to get back to you. And that's not exactly, staying indoors and reserving who you are, because Virgos are all about service, just, so you know. But but to come out and to embrace really the
It to
fullness of
it.
who you are instead of hiding some part of it. What'd you say?
I'm making a heart, but I'm doing it bad. Um, love y'all
So
mean it.
this is where I was asking the question. I was like, wow, um, a lot of times in the shop, one of the first things that people say they need is protection. And that reminds me of our first Eight of Cups in reverse. They're thinking, the world's coming at me, this is what's going on, instead of recognizing maybe an evolution in their sensitivity, or, something that they are supposed to face. It's just like, nope, shield me from it. I don't want it. Where's the crystal for that so I can throw it at the thing that I'm having a problem with?
And
And
hang on just a second. That speaks to it, doesn't it?
yeah,
I've got problems in my life. Give me a rock to fix it.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And that's very surface, right? There's so much depth to that. And so I feel like the reverse Eight of Cups gives us a moment to say, okay, well, let's take it a little deeper. But then the reverse tower, the house of God, is like, no, 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 not too far. Don't get comfortable down there now. Like, don't shut the doors. You gotta come out. You've gotta be social. Don't be the gremlin. I mean, I think on my profile it says I'm the resident. Like, I'm a complicated houseplant. And then it also says like I'm the resident hermit here. Like all of those are descriptors for that sort of like, being in here. I can recall the first year of being open. I'd go to somewhere simple like the post office, and it was outside of my turf, and I'd be like, why is everybody so mean? Because I'd gotten so used to being away from my veterinary reception job and having to socialize. I'd been in, and I was like, my little world, la 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 la, Dahlia's world. And it was a completely different world out there. And so, with the reverse tower, we are being asked what is the pivotal point in which you're supposed to go back out into the world. And I think when I considered that for myself, it is when I start to feel like everyone has forgotten me. It's a weird.
Mm.
I guess that's my object permanence issues and the
Mm-hmm.
whole ADHD or ADD. But when I feel like everybody has fully disappeared, because I'm very aware of who's thinking about me, and some people will still continue to engage, but there comes a point where even if I'm getting that engagement, it's like out of sight, out of mind, and I'm like, oh, maybe I've been down here too long, and so at that point, I'm like, oh, let me get back out there and see what's behind the weeds, that have grown up around me. So, and I think for people that are coming in for that protection piece, I think at the point, I guess if I was to make some sort of like healer's recommendation or start inquiring, I think the thing that I would be saying to them would be the point at which you feel some semblance of personal strength, like when it's not just protect me, but also fuck off, bad energy, that's the time to go back out. Like when you feel like, hey, you know what, this ritual I did, you better be careful because I ritualized to protect myself, so the shit's just firing right back at whoever sent it. When you get some sense of that, that's a great time to go back out in the world. And it allows you to see how far you've come. It allows you to build your strength and your confidence. And then if you find out that there's some holes in the work you did, it's not to say I didn't do it right, but more, what can I add? Because I really hit on something here. I'm sure if I just do one, maybe two more things, maybe sleep was a factor. Because when I was hermiting, I was up till 1 a.m. talking to spirit and the ghosts in my room. Maybe you don't do that because maybe you missed a boundary point there as well. You know, there's so much to figuring out who you are. And I think the Eight of Cups in reverse asks us to figure out who we are. The reverse Tower card asks us to figure out who we are in the world rather than turning to apathy and disconnect.
I would also, when we're talking about disconnect with that reverse House of God card, I would say that it's also warning us of doing beyond anything beyond the scope of our ability in terms of output. And a
Mm,
lot of us are being asked to go well beyond ability right now. And by ability, I don't mean your skill set, I mean your endurance capacity.
right, right.
And if I just look at the people I have that are coming to me for healing and coming to me for consultation, these are people that are taking care of elderly parents in addition to working full time. They're people that are
Mm,
going through a divorce, having to sell their house, having to find another job in another town, and at the same time keep their kids from flipping out. I mean,
right.
people are being tasked with huge emotional uh, labor right now, on top of the labor of just normal maintenance and normal life and just getting on with life. And so everybody that I meet, it seems like, has something huge going on. And a lot of people are having health crises right now as well.
Mm,
Aside from COVID, it seemed like when COVID hit, all of a sudden people started dying from other things too, completely
yeah,
uncovid related. Not that people didn't die before, but masses of people are suddenly dying.
right.
And so people are grieving, and there's just a lot. And I think that what this is saying is that when we are dealing with things that we have to push ourselves through, like we were talking about, we need to be mindful that we need self care time. We need downtime. You don't have to live there, but we're getting to the place, like the card was saying, where everything feels artificial and automatic and manufactured, like we're on the hamster wheel and we can't ever just stop. And it's
Mm,
saying you need to stop, but that magic word comes into play, and that is balance. You need to have balance in your social interaction and your hermiting. Now, we can go to the opposite side of that, and I know you know about this, Dahlia, and it's people that cannot be in the silence. They cannot hermit. They cannot be still with their voice in their head and their own prayers. Even in the Bible, it says, go to your prayer closet to speak to me. Be in the quiet, be alone. And when you're in your closet of prayer, you don't have a priest there. You don't have an intermediary. It's you and God speaking. And
right.
so even the Bible tells us you have to have sacred downtime. I mean, and it says on the seventh day, God rested, and this is God. So if God needs to rest, most assuredly, a little human needs to rest and needs some downtime. And I see people just not doing that. And that is causing major health crises to occur. And we just had our class last night. You'll remember this one, Dahlia, on how spiritual maladies manifest as physical symptoms.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm seeing that all the time now, of people who are just having physical breakdowns that defy diagnosis and treatment because
Yes.
it's happening on a spiritual level, because they're exhausting themselves. And so
Yep.
the other side of it is, we can't get exhausted, but we also have to not have all the distractions around us. And when you can't go to sleep without headphones on, when you
Mm,
have to have your screen right up to the last minute that you're awake, when you can't go to the movies by yourself, can't have have a dinner by yourself, if you have to have people around you all the time, or you go into crisis, that is as much of a problem as somebody who is only isolating.
right,
So
exactly.
everybody's going to have their balance. Everybody has a greater weight to isolation, and you have to find what balances that out to keep you safe. That's my speech.
Either way, the universe is going to take it away from you. So we all need to find that balance, or else we'll be dealing with a whole hell of a lot.
Yes.
Now, the last card, the most interesting of the three, because like Katrina said, this is a pretty dark deck, and you're probably thinking like, well, shit, if I can't hermit for very long and I'm avoiding stuff that I need to confront and let go of, like what's left? And what I love about this deck is that it does have like weird positivity. So we get this Empress card that is so adorable. I mean, it's a little cat and just sitting pretty. Look at it.
I think that's from the White Cat deck, isn't it?
This is from the Neurotic Owl Tarot.
Oh.
Yes, and this is
So
the
the
Empress card.
great thing about Empress, and Dahlia will tell you what Aliman says about it, but the Empress is all about flourishing. It's all about being in abundance. It's about the harvest, which we're in right now. It's about sitting on your throne and feeling very well. She's almost always shown as pregnant. She's got pomegranates on her cloak. She's just absolutely in her most fertile glory. So it's about the message of all of this is you're going to produce more with self-care. You're going to be more productive and thrive if you find the balance. That's what my take on it is. What do you think, Dahlia?
I have gotten this card for a number of different reasons because it does impact everything abundant, but it also impacts like home and comfort. I've had a few instances where this card was actual pregnancies in my reading, and I was so excited for the individuals who that came up for and to be able to experience the connection through the card. But this is all about comfort. I mean, when I see the Empress, she is not like the queens who have to delegate. People just know what she needs and they bring it to her. And she doesn't have to want for anything. She just is kicked back. Now, I've also had people get annoyed with this card because she is pregnant and they're just like, yeah, no, those days are done. Or, nah, I don't want any of those things running through my house. And I get it. But I tend to talk about pregnancy and possibility a lot of times. This is a very fertile, creative energy that can be applied to anything, and obviously the flexibility of that application is the question. And so when we ask when we're asking, what do the folks need to know, and we started out with such harsh cards, um, to me, seeing this at the end is like, the rainbow at the after all the rain, that all the work that's been put in, we actually do have the ability to achieve balance if you recognize, what work needs to be done. What do you need to leave behind? And it may be, it may be small things, maybe large things, maybe people, maybe the job. I mean, it could be all over the place. It could be, stop eating those potato chips, whatever. But there's a clear shift happening from, being down and out and needing time off to, wait a minute, recognized how you were battered, beaten, and bruised, and don't feel bad about it, because this is not, despite our general culture here in the United States, that is not a marker of your value. And to enjoy the beauty of what's around you, the Empress and the Nine of Pentacles kind of remind me of one another, as they both kind of get to look around and they're like, oh, the sky is so beautiful. Like, when's the last time that you got to look up and relax And I'm so I want to put this up on the screen here as Monique recognizes that this summer and going into the fall is her trying to find balance once again. I think that is a perfect metaphor for everything that we have transitioned through with each of these three cards is um, going from the excitement of summer and the work, 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 and it's hot and all of these things to transitioning to that sort of like, okay, well, let me dig up my harvest and then eat it and then winter
Mhm.
through.
What's
Yeah.
great about harvest is it's a time of instant gratification. And our magic is much more powerful at harvest time than it is at any other time in the year. Because
Yes.
you think about harvest, if you're hungry, go out to the garden, pick a tomato, and eat it. It's right there. You don't have to plant the seed. You don't have to wait. You don't have to fertilize. It's instant gratification. And so be really careful of your magic during this time because you are going to flourish. You are going to be the empress. And I think a wonderful message of the Empress is exactly what you were saying. And that is let other people take care of you for a change.
Yeah.
That is what empowers them. And I think I've mentioned this before, but I had a friend that was very self sufficient. Her name was Jackie, and she was just so independent. She never needed anything from anybody. She was the helper, she was the one who gave. And she had a tragedy that happened
Mm.
and she was very reclusive during that time, of course. And one of our older friends, it was an elderly woman, just kept bugging her about bringing dinner over. I'm going to bring you dinner over. No, I don't want to see people now. That's fine. I'm going to bring it over. I'm going to leave it on your step. You're going to have dinner. And kept pushing and pushing. And Jackie finally just said, I don't want you to bring it over. And the other woman said, maybe this is my ministry.
Mm.
And I think so often, just like they were bickering back and forth, we fight people trying to help us when we are disempowering them. We're not letting them be useful and be helpful and give back to us. So they feel eternally imbalanced because they're always the ones giving.
Mm.
But they can't accept it back. And it took me a long time to be able to welcome other people doing things for me because I was always afraid they were going to be resentful, they were going to hold it against me. And I'm just so grateful now for the people that do for me. I want
Right.
to show
And
you
are
something.
persistent about it.
I want to show you something else I'm grateful for. Hang on just a minute. Look at this. I don't know if you can see this. Hold on.
Oh, it's a beautiful view to start.
That's my view. And if
Wow.
you look at that mountain over there,
Uh-huh.
you can see Lake Tahoe. And if you
Wow.
go to the other side of my house, you see El Dorado Hills. I mean, that's my view out my office door. So I just want to share that real quick. There's my boobs again.
We're all grateful for those.
They're back. So yeah, and I had to. One of the things I could go get into this with is my husband because I'm always afraid I'm not doing enough,
Mm.
and so I got to a place where I was having my surgery. I think I may have mentioned this before too, and talk about an Empress thing. I was having my surgery and I had to have 6 weeks of recovery. And I thought, oh God, Eric can't do that. Eric can't, you know, take care of me for 6 weeks. How can I ask a person to just let me be still for 6 weeks? That's not fair. That's not right. And I was just arguing in my head and I prayed about it. And God has said to me, give him a chance to impress you. Now, we've been together 26 years. I didn't think there was anything he could do I didn't know about, that he could impress me. And she just said, give him the chance to impress you. And I tell you, Dahlia, I could not have had better care. He was wonderful. He really took good care of me. And so I'm grateful that I got the message of, you know what, sit down, shut up, and give somebody else the chance to take the podium and to
Yes.
be as important as you are. And I think you and I both do that we tend to be the one that needs to do everything, and so that we know it's done right, we don't have to redo it, and so we don't inconvenience anybody by asking for help. And it's just so important that we do allow others to help us. And I think that's also what this is about, that we
Absolutely.
that we can hermit and need time to ourselves. We can respect when other people need time to themselves, but we should also be mindful of when our friends need help and be mindful of when they are offering to help us, that that is part of their gift to us.
The so 100% to all of those things, and there's so much to gain from the external assessment of everything and the awareness of like what are others kind of going through and experiencing, and then bringing that together with what our needs are. I definitely am one of those people that is like, no, I got it. Especially if it is something detail oriented.
Mhm.
I would rather not get mad or frustrated at you and just, do it. But I don't have 8 arms, a way to split myself up,
Mhm.
and sometimes I don't have the bandwidth. So this journey of like embracing help actually began for me in 2020 because so many people were cared so much about the shop that they were reaching out and they were like, hey, you know, I'll book a session with you when you're able to do it because we don't know where all this nonsense is going. Whenever you're able to do it, just let me know. But, please just apply this to your rent and whatever else you need and make sure your family's taken care of. I mean, you want to talk about like I had such a hard time. I was so grateful. But I was like, wait, I have nothing to give you because we're closed, and
Yeah. For me, it
chasing
was
those
the
people
fire.
down. Say again.
For me, it was the fire.
Oh yeah.
We were so stunned by everything that happened that we couldn't move. We were immobilized. And our entire magical community came around and said, oh, no, 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 we got this. Here's a table. Here's a bed. You need makeup. Here's some tampons. All the things you don't imagine you need.
Right.
They just brought goodie baskets and furniture. One lady said, look, I don't have furniture, but I've got a truck and I will go anywhere within driving distance and pick up whatever you need. And Eric and I were so humbled by that, and just amazed that so many people would step up when, you know, some of them barely knew us.
Yeah.
And
But
it was,
that's
yeah,
that's
it's
that's the
amazing.
beauty of humankind, to get to see what happens when we are at our lowest point, to get
Whew.
to experience the resilience of others sharing their energy when you don't have it. I mean, I hope that nobody has to experience that, right? You never want to wish that on a person, but when it comes, it just floors you. It's like a gut punch in the best of ways. And so, as far as the Alimens Tarot and what the Empress represents, like
Mhm.
Katrina and I have both given our sort of interactions with the card. But again, surprise, surprise, the Aliman is like, nope.
Nope.
Um, in this deck, the Empress represents emotional freedom.
Oh,
Um,
even better. I like this better. This is better than ours.
right. And I mean maybe that could be said for the waterfall we didn't notice in the background. Like usually I guess I associated the waterfall with that sort of inflow of abundance and
Yeah.
creativity,
The
right?
water go where it go.
Right. Right. But when you think about a waterfall, I mean there's very few ways to control and contain it. And so here we are with this card that is like just open the floodgates, allow yourself to be emotionally free. And the deck even goes on to compare um, the Empress with the High Priestess. The High Priestess is all about ephemeral truth, it says, but the High Priestess knows practical truth and
Mm.
and how to enjoy things. And one line that really struck me, that the creator of this deck uh, said was into that the Empress is intuition in action.
Oh,
And
I
I
like
was
that.
like, what? Oh, wait a minute. Like, I think I understand that. The ability to embrace only the yeses and to be clear about your no's and your boundaries, and that is part of your intuitive sense. And so when we talk about needing to leave things behind. And when we talk about going too far with that process and hermiting too far and going through the bruisings and the beatings, to open up to this place where we're like, yes, I'm going to embrace intuition in action. Like I don't know, I get excited about it. I feel like a kid who's just figured out a new way to use a hammer. Like I'm not just gonna build stuff. Like I'm gonna do some serious work. And so that was inspiration for me. And the creator goes on to address that, gender, this is not a gender thing with the Empress. So, we're talking about pregnancy, we're talking about fertility. It's not about that. It's about how to live, as quoted by the Alley Man. So I love that. And it doesn't have to be material. I mean, if you want to go scream naked in the woods and that's your way of living, then do it. I mean, Katrina's got all the land in the world. She'll probably never see you breeze past the window. So, once again, surprise, surprise from the Alley Minster. I feel like we're sort of this is not a selling point for the deck, but it's pretty stellar in its creation for sure.
One of the things I appreciated, and I feel like we should bring this up, in the book, the guy has a little note and he says, I'm the one who got the deck. I'm the guide. I'm copying it for people, but it feels kind of shitty since these cards belong elsewhere. So I guess I'll do the tracking and detective work to source the cards of the deck. Good idea before you sell them. Look for my sticky notes for that kind of stuff. He was
Yep.
very clear. I straight out stole the shit.
Well, and the campaign was very thorough. I mean, it was a mess, but it was very thorough. And so, one thing that can be said about this deck is that every creator, everywhere that he sourced the cards, those content creators got paid. I don't know how much, and I'm not here to get into all of that, but this person took time and it was
Mm-hmm.
painstaking. As far as Kickstarter and like the delays and what you receive from Kickstarter, I felt like this was probably one that was well deserved. Like the wait was warranted, I guess is what I'm trying to say,
Mm-hmm.
because it was so intricate. I mean, there may be one, maybe two cards from each type of deck. And like we said, guys, it's 130 plus cards.
This is one of my favorite Kickstarters, the
Oh,
Intuit
nice.
Oracle. I just did a Kickstarter for the Intuit. Oh shit! I got to give my new address. The Intuit Tarot is coming out, and it's a really beautiful deck. I did not really get into the indie decks
Hmm.
until Dahlia corrupted me. Like this is a really beautiful Lenormand. Come
Oh,
here.
wow.
And then it's also got things like it's an expanded Lenormand. So it has something like 76 or 78 Lenormand cards. And then it's got animal and mythical creatures,
Ooh, that's the
that Intuit deck.
hmm.
And then it also has got timing cards, which is very helpful.
Wow.
So I've really very much enjoyed it. And you've definitely sold me on checking out some of these indie decks and paying way too much on these Kickstarters. But it's really been fun and it's opened up my tarot and oracle reading experience exponentially. So thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm here for it. All of it. All of you. We're expanding your horizons. I'm not mad about it. Man, wow. 3 cards in
Three
one
cards
hour.
did all that.
I hope you guys have enjoyed this. We
So
hope you
what's our
guys have
takeaway,
enjoyed this.
Delia? What's our takeaway on this?
Our takeaway is, I mean, I probably everything that we say about life, it's management. Like, all points are valid. Remove yourself or take a step back from the things that are not serving you. move towards the things that are, embrace help where it can be given, allow yourself to be taken care of on occasion. I mean, like I don't have one sentence or word because it went in so many different
It did.
directions,
It did.
but
Listen
it
to
came
your
together.
spirit. Listen to your spirit. If you are an introvert, be an introvert. Find
Yes.
ways to make your life support you being an introvert. If you're an extrovert, fall into that. Fall into love with that. But remember that for every yin and yang, it has that little eye of the opposite in there. So make sure that you're pulling that little bit of social in there if you're an introvert. Make sure you're pulling a little bit of that quiet time in there if you're an extrovert. Or else your tower is going to come down all around you and you're going to be a hamster on a wheel and you're going to hate it. So make sure that you're pulling that balance, whatever that balance looks like. Then you'll flourish like the Empress and people will do shit for you. It's great.
And emotional freedom,
Emotional freedom, the
intuition
waterfall,
in action.
water over rocks. You're the rock. Your emotions are the water.
Mm.
Water over rocks.
And I just got this visual in my head of it being like, like,
Oh no! Don't get it up your nose.
don't look up, just accept
Yeah,
it.
don't look up.
Oh my goodness. This has been a lot of fun, as it always is. We are at that time, at that hour where we have to say goodbye for the week and catch up with you guys next time. We loved having you. Thank you for your participation, your comments, and keep them coming. What did you get from this? What did you gain from it? We hope that the message of what the people needed to hear resonated if you're catching this video on a replay. But next time, we will see you on Crossroads of Cognizance. Bye, everyone.